Well, good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Richard Cruz, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Warrant Officer Nikolai Rofe. We warmly welcome the family of Private Norbert Leo Smyth, whose story will be told shortly. We are also honoured this evening to acknowledge Rear Admiral Mark Hammond, Commander Australian Fleet, and Mrs Jodie Hammond. Wing Commander Michael Garside, Australian War Memorial Air Force Fellow. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. And during this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you're able, I invite you all to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. If you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war or on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Norbert Leo Smyth. Norbert Leo Smyth, known as Bert to his family and friends, was born in November 1892, the second child and first son born to Lawrence and Elizabeth Smyth of Perth. Smyth's father died in 1898, leaving his mother, Elizabeth, to raise her 5 young children alone. Young Bert attended Christian Brothers College in Perth and later worked as an accountant. He volunteered to serve for Australia in the Great War on the 17th of May 1916, enlisting in the Australian Imperial Force on the 7th of August. In the month between volunteering and officially enlisting, he married his sweetheart, Mary Griffin, in Perth. Bert's brother Joseph also served in the First World War. Joseph survived the conflict but died in 1939 from complications of tuberculosis contracted in France. Bert Smyth embarked from Fremantle for service overseas on the 9th of November 1916, 3 months after getting married. He sailed with the reinforcements of the 11th Infantry Battalion for England, where he arrived in early January 1917. Smyth continued to train in England, but on the 29th of January was hospitalised with influenza. He did not rejoin his training battalion until the 25th of March. In May 1917, he sailed from England for France, and on the 15th of January joined Charlie Company of the 11th Infantry Battalion, while they were training behind lines near Ribemont in northern France. He remained training with his unit throughout July and August, and in mid-September moved north to Belgium to Château-Sugar area south of Ypres. In Belgium, Smyth settled into a cycle of frontline reserve and training duties that lasted until October 1917. The men of the 11th Battalion spent their time resting and training behind the lines, or in manning frontline trenches, facing intermittent German high-explosive artillery, rifle and machine gun fire. On the 1st of October, whilst his unit was in reserve in West Hock area, Smyth was once again hospitalised, this time with bronchitis. His illness was so severe that he went to England for recovery and did not rejoin his unit in the field until 11th of January 1918. From January until March 1918, Smyth continued to serve in Belgium in wet and muddy conditions. His battalion did not take part in any major battle, but instead continued the cycle of frontline, reserve and training duties. On the 18th of February, the men of the 11th Battalion were given a brief respite, a one-day holiday in which they were given extra food, entertainment and a sports carnival. This day was granted to replace Christmas Day, as the battalion had spent the 25th of December 1917 manning the trenches near Ypres. In April 1918, Smyth and the 11th Battalion moved south from Belgium into France in response to the German spring offensive. They initially moved to the lines near Amiens, but soon moved back to Hazebrouck, near the Franco-Belgian border. At 1:50 a.m. on the 24th of April 1918, Smyth and his company took part in a raid on German lines near Metairon. As the Australians took part in the attack, they encountered intense machine gun fire which forced them back to their own trenches. In the chaos and darkness of the action, Smyth ran to the aid of a sergeant lying wounded on the battlefield. As he approached the wounded soldier, Smyth was killed by machine gun fire. He was 25 years old. Due to the intense machine gun fire, his comrades could not recover his body, and his name is now listed on the Villers-Bretonneux Memorial in France, which lists the names of more than 10,700 Australians of the First World War who have no known grave. Private Norbert Leo Smyth is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Norbert Leo Smyth, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes this evening's last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.